Sorry. So, welcome everyone and the hall to public and our press gallery as well. As you know, this meeting will be recorded, subject to recording being of suitable quality will be put onto the council's YouTube channel and via the website. So just another reminder, if you would turn your cell phones into silent. Health and safety, we have our entrance and exits, front and the rear of the building, and assemble in the playground until the building has been confirmed clear. Alistair, would you like to do the information?
Not particularly, but as soon as I just scroll up a little bit.
Can I borrow mine?
No, I've got it here somewhere. In fact, no, I can't. Yes, I've
I
got it.
I did it.
Would you like it? You called it. That was good.
I don't like you today.
What do you mean today?
Do I have to read the gypsum in there? We pledge that we will faithfully and impartially use our skill, wisdom and judgment throughout discussions and deliberations ahead of us today in order to make responsible and appropriate decisions for the benefit of the South Warrnambool District at large. We commit individually and as a council to the principles of integrity and respect and to upholding the vision and values we have adopted in our long-term plan strategic document in order to energise, unify and enrich our district.
Thank you, Councillor.
You're very welcome.
Apologies. I have an apology for that. This from Pam, whose kid is not well. We also have an apology for the lateness from Tippy. We have an apology of absence from Ross. Do we have anything ready? Apology for lateness or absence? Absence. I'll propose that we I'm here.
We're just apologising. Let's just hear an apology.
I leave myself to master it, in which case I've asked Garrett to take the chair during that period. Do we have a mover to accept these apologies? Thank you very much, Councillor Fox. Seconded, Councillor Ems. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against? The motion is carried. Do we have any conflicts of interest? Right, so we'll now move on to our long-term deliberations. We'd like to, I think we might review what we discussed yesterday and then move on to spatial plan. Just as a note that I have asked our CFO to at some stage come to us with the ratings implications of the initial thoughts we had regarding rural roading, because I just like to know that we made that decision, impact decision, because there was a reason we put that in for discussion. But until Katrina arrives, we'll just revisit that when she's able to do that, because we understand the pressure she's under. I'm going to hand over now to our CEO to start off on the spatial plan operations, or perhaps we would like to review what we talked about yesterday first. Comfortable?
Yes.
Cool.
Yep. Can I just clarify as well? So yesterday it was going to go and look out about, so then we get the information from what was in the LTP for the requests that were coming through?
Yes, so we will have a list of any additional financial implications that have come through either from the submissions or that have emerged since we put the plan out from the council operating expense perspective, and we'll be receiving that information at the workshop.
Can I just ask a question on roading while it's open? And this one
Sure.
for you, Harry. What we talked about yesterday was the additional 1 kilometre of roading per year.
Yeah.
If that's not in, how much roading are we going to be seeing? So how have we budgeted in terms of, we talked about doing safety improvements. Now, what have we put into the budget for that? And is that going to mitigate some of the issues that have been raised in presentations to us?
So the main main safety risk has nothing to do with rural roads, in the sense of unsealed roads. Okay. That the sealing of the road is not the mitigation of the safety risk. It's speed. simply speed. And so you heard Daniel, for instance, the gentleman from and best practice, you'd have a speed limit on all your rural unsealed roads between 60 or 70. And if you're driving faster than that, then you are driving that safely. One of your issues that you have with gravel, seal being gravel, is a migration of people who are travelling 100 k's, disappear off into a gravel road, and there's a car coming the other way. So if you actually seal, you actually can create more risk than actually not seal. Either do it all or you don't. You've got 260 kilometres of unsealed road. Chipping away at the problem at a kilometre a year is not going to change your safety risk at all. Your biggest safety risk are your arterials, and that's your Ponatahi Road, Halter Road, the big long roads we have. That's where your safety improvement money should have been spent on engineering, things like that, corners, barriers, and various things like that. So from a safety perspective, and I can say this with absolute clarity, because remember I was the National Road Safety Director for New Zealand. The sealing is not the solution to the safety risk of unsealed roads.
Even on issues that are like for work opportunity, and most of us probably driven that road, there's a lot of parts that never see the sun, always wet, very narrow. And would you seal those sorts of, is that part of what you're talking about at safety or not?
Your safety, yeah, those kind of things. But you'd have to, just because it looks like that, doesn't really mean that that's a safety risk. So the obvious things are things like bridge abutments. So you'll see in nearly every there's actually come back to the actual road. But generally, you would always seal your approach at the to and from the bridge. That stops someone. If you didn't do that, any of migration, people actually hit the button on the bridge. Right? So it's a lot of people to guide people safely over the bridge. Dust, the safety risk, there's two things you would do for dust. One is you make sure that any urban, any development in the rural area, some of it's too late, but you have setbacks from the road for housing, so dust isn't a problem for where people. Doesn't solve issues for people who've already built close to the road. But good practice, good planning practice is to set a setback that's within a distance from rural roads. Where you would seal for a dust problem would be usually schools. So schools where the water supply was a lot of children and that kind of stuff. But generally, dust again is a factor of speed. Changed in the world in the last 10 years is the type of cars that people have now. I mean, a number of SUVs, Rangers, and that gives people an illusion of the ability to drive faster. In fact, the tyre treads that those are designed for are not the best for rural roads anyway, which is an interesting side factor. I can actually show you, it'd be fascinating to see the difference in tyre. I've got a photo it shows you the amount of grip and traction at 50, 60, 70 and 100 k that an average tyre has to those speeds. And at 60, it's the tyre width is about that wide, or the tyre about that wide. At 100 k's, it's that k. So that's your contact with the road. So speed is the issue.
So do we have enough money then? So assuming that we said, okay, we won't do the extra kilometre, do we have enough money in the budget then currently to do all that safety work and to fix, we heard some pretty horrific stories about Turner Road areas. Do we have enough money in the maintenance and the safety part of our budget to fix those issues?
If they are proven.
If they're proven,
So we have, again, you have to prioritise it depending on where the risk is, not just for because your issue, guys, is you had 300 or whatever submissions about rural roads, right? And you had some for, some against on this side, but you had a whole lot of people focused on one piece of road and told you it was the most dangerous piece of road in the entire district. Which actually probably isn't true.
Well, I don't know, you had
Well,
someone from
well,
Tora coming and saying that they agreed with it, so.
That's why I asked that question, to get some data.
So you have people, other rural communities coming and saying that they agree with it.
In terms of safety, that is the mitigation, I think will make the biggest difference to the safety on rural roads is lower
Low speed limit.
and making sure that we talk to the police.
But that's not something we can do, is it? That's got to be NZTA.
No,
So we can change that and put those roads. So let's do it.
The unfortunate thing is it is a long protracted process that we're trying to speed up. That we can react as opposed to sit and wait for 3 years.
I think you do it your own motion. Currently, until the speed rule is changed, which is what the consultation is going on now, it's by a local bylaw. So you can at your own motion change, but you have to consult, there's a process to go through all that kind of stuff. By resolution, you can change speed limits. There's nothing stopping you doing that.
so we did hear from a couple of people that didn't really think that changing the speed limit was going to have a significant impact, because the local people knew where the risk areas were, and the people that were out of town were driving at 2 speed anyway. So, you know, or who knew. What effect are we likely to gain by altering the speed? Does it just send a different message to people? You know, you've got a visual comes up that says this is a 60 km/h road. I mean, I know about my own driving behaviour, but I don't know about other people's. To me, that tells me that there are things that might be coming up on that road which mean I need to be aware, and I won't react if I'm travelling at a higher speed. But not everyone has those driving behaviours.
So unfortunately, that's the thing. There's 50% of people, if you sign the road, will largely drive at the posted speed. There's 50% of people on average who exceed the posted speed. This is at any speed, 100 k's, whatever it is. The only thing that will slow them down generally is that they're going to get caught.
They're going to get
caught.
Right.
So that's at the enforcement cusp.
Okay.
So, but if you said this on a rural road, we have currently a silver road, we've got 100 k's. It's 50% of people who think that's a safe engineering standard to drive, and it becomes a
A target, and it was
Yep,
spoken
and
about
so-
as well.
So that's their interest.
Yeah.
You'll get a number of people who shift their driving behaviour, and then the other thing is just through education and enforcement. So we want to ask our police colleagues to actually go for a drive on a busy weekend and just be visible on the road.
The other thing you've also got is climatic conditions. We had a very long, dry winter, and which does not allow for bedding. And I think that we've seen a number of emails.
Yep.
So from the grading, the road actually became more dangerous because grading was not assisted with the bedding and the remediation which was occurring. So, and that's only just being fixed now. And I think we've seen that with the raft of complaints regarding rural better roads over the last 3 months. You know, we've had a number of them. I don't know whether you councillors have actually also done this, but I've gone and driven every single road as soon as there's a complaint. And just to say, is this NIMBYism? Is this someone who's from Wellington who's moved in and wants their roads to be over here? And I try and gauge myself whether or not there's an issue that I'm unaware of. And I do encourage you to do that as well, just as a matter of
Just to clarify though, we don't often know about those because that's an operational thing, so we don't actually know about those complaints, so it's a little bit hard for us to go out.
That's a very good point. If you want us to distribute them, but bear in mind, I do.
Yeah, so I can understand that, but that's,
I've gone Phillips Line, and I've gone Rurakog, and I've been White Rock, and I've been driving along, and I usually drive in an old car, you give this sort of.
good, yeah.
I've just got a question for Harry. So there's a lot of talk about signage over the last few days. Have we got the budget to add some more signage
We do,
to
yep.
approaching gravel road?
Absolutely. So like, actually, Rurakog, because it's been resealed, you don't generally put the white lines and the delineation on the road until it's bedded. So you're waiting for the gravel to bed in. So so if you're excluding the new seal, because I actually went to the drive last night. Actually, every interchange between gravel and the seal is signed with the standard sign of the car with a swivel. Just the new part of the road has, and equally hasn't got the white lines and the centre line. Start on it simply because it's new and it's speeding. So that will be put.
Since we're on that, Katrina, I don't suppose we had a chance, we should approach that later on with regards to roading. Thank you, Katrina. I'm sorry for throwing that at you this morning. But I mulled about it overnight.
So remember, we gave you, so you made the decision about the seal, we gave you the information that impacts on lifestyle. So as Alex asked, just to give a sense of what the actual impact is going to be. So I think it's highly relevant decision. Because remember, we started on the proposition that we needed to fund water. And so one of those things that we were nice to do, not essential, that we could take off the table. We would say
In the footpath.
situation's going to change. So that's what we need to have a look at the financial implications.
So we're talking about a specific rating here, and this will affect me personally, and probably Garrett personally. I just like it. Yeah, I don't actually have a view on the rate sign either way. I'm quite comfortable paying more rates or less rates, whichever. So I just wanted it on the table. That's not going to impact on how I talk about this. So
I'm fine with it. Yeah, no, I think it's not relevant to the conversation. Well, yeah, at the moment, let's look at this rate. But I'm sorry for doing this, you guys. It's just that I felt it.
Could I just ask another question briefly? Just the same way we had the question about management with the Greytown Recycling Centre, there was a theme with a number of submitters about change in the way, notwithstanding edit issues, but there were comments made from people that the road maintenance has changed since Ruamahanga Roads became involved.
Yes.
Now, I know that's an operational matter, but in my mind, that's actually also an important part of the conversation because, like I said, notwithstanding climatic conditions, has there been a change in the way that contract is managed?